My name's Captain Dan Schafer. I'm the founder of Bottom Sweeper Jigs, also captain of Insomniac Guide Service, LLC, down in Egg Harbor, New Jersey. I come to talk today about my jig head, Bottom Sweeper Jigs. I've a little bit of background about me. I've done probably close to 800 seminars through the last 10 years through my guide service. I pioneered a fishery southern New Jersey and probably for the entire northeast coast of jig fishing for tog. About 14, 15 years ago, we developed the technique out of actually a necessity. We had an aqua view camera, we were dropping that down on wrecks, on structures in the back bay, and we were seeing a variety of species down there, sheepshead primarily. And these sheepshead that we were seeing back then, we were using dropper rigs and we had a very hard time of catching them. Fast forward to going down to the Gulf Coast, experimenting down there, having some results down there, Destin area, and coming back up here and fishing for sheepshead. We developed a technique using jig heads of working them throughout the water column and on the bottom as well, and we also started transferring that to tog. Traveled all over the place, did a ton of seminars on it ways ago. Did a world fishing episode in New Jersey, catching sheepshead back in 2010, and over the years, there was nothing out there that really satisfied our needs as far as products go. They were way off the mark, and what we did was we came up with something that we can use on a daily basis on my boat, and something to provide the public too, from here to Texas, the best thing you can possibly use to catch tog or sheepshead and a bunch of variety of other species as well. Now, the jig head itself is unique. It's extremely unique. It's machine cut. It's a custom mold. Okay, there's nothing out there like it, and it spins on its own. It's perfectly balanced. You can see the cuts there, and it's extremely snag resistant. I went with a very short shank hook, extremely stout, 2x strong, and the reason I went with such a short shank hook is the fact that I want this thing to be ingested by the fish. I don't want him nipping at it on the outside and never really getting a hold of it. What the fish do with this right here is they'll come up and then they'll take all of it to about half of it in, and especially those bites with sheepshead. Sheepshead are one of those fish that are certainly one of those bottom fish that are harder to catch than other species because togs set up a different way than a sheepshead. A sheepshead has external crushers in their mouth. Not external, but they're just right up front. They have those front teeth, and they have those corn cobs on the lower and on the upper end. Now, tog, they have those front picking teeth as well, but their crushers are mainly in the back of their throats. You can lip a tog for the most part, and not have to worry about getting your finger crushed because they're just so far back. With those tog, they have to flip things into the back here and crush them, making it fairly easy to time a hook set on them. It's usually a nip, and a pow. And then you can go ahead and they'll bend your rod tip a little bit and you can set the hook on it. But with sheepshead, it's more of a vacuum. They take those external crushers out like they use for picking off barnacles and things of that nature. And what they'll do is they'll come up, nibble on a bait, and then spit out the excess shell and just swallow the stuff very readily. So with this being a shorter shank, a more compact shank, they're more likely to get the entire thing into their mouth. And what you do, you have to, when you set a hook on a sheepshead, you have to go past the upper and the lower crushers. If you're just right in those crushers, a lot of times the hook might bounce off the teeth or something like that if it's a longer shank hook. And what'll happen is you just won't hook the fish. With a shorter shank, they can flip it into the back here, back by the rear crusher, which is right along this line right here as they wrap around. And most of the time you end up hooking them right on the cheekbone right here, and you just have a way more positive hook set. Also too, with a shorter shank hook, what that allows you to do is it allows you to have more leverage on the fish for the fact that since it is so short, there's less of a lever there for the fish to throw the hook. You'll notice the distance between the eye and the hook point. What that does is that also allows it to be a lot more snag resistant. The more space there is between the point and the eye, the more likelihood you're going to foul into something and lose your jig head. This jig head can be used in a variety of ways. You can be suspended, and then a lot of times what sheepshead will do, since they have stripes, a lot of times they'll be in schools, and almost like zebras on a savanna, they'll be They'll be tightly packed together. And what those stripes do on a sheep's head is it allows them to blend in with each other and look like a larger mass. Tog, for the most part, are camouflage. So a lot of times they'll be stationary on a wreck or something like that, but sheep's head are typically always moving. And a lot of times not really on the bottom. A lot of times they'll be either very close to the surface or somewhere in the mid column. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're picking out little tiny leads on a structure and then dropping down even 1/4 of an ounce or a 3/8 of an ounce and dropping down and filling those really light bites on there, and you still have an extremely stout hook with 1/4 of an ounce. 1/4 of an ounce, 3/8, half ounce are all 1/0 hooks, and then it goes all the way from 1/4 up to 3 ounces for really deep drops for those winter togging those wrecks out there. Also, too, what we use them for redfish and also for striped bass is live lining. A lot of times when you're live lining a spot or a mullet or a pinfish, you're putting them alive on here. And the best benefit about this jig head with the design, with the anti-roll design, is that you can literally crawl over structure with it. So if you're fishing an oyster bed or up here what we call a sod bank, which is a falling down bank in the water, or you're just going over a rough shell bed or even a broken up wreck, the jig head tends to just glide over the structure and not foul at all. We've used these things maybe 3 or 4 days in a row up here live lining, and what products we used to use that used to foul, these certainly do not. This jig is available anywhere from 1/4 of an ounce all the way up to 3 ounces, 1/0, 2/0 hook, 3/0, 4/0, and a 5/0 hook on the larger models. Everything in the entire line, all 6 colors, available here at TackleDirect in Egg Harbor Township if you want to come in, or online at www.tackledirect.com.